Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tanisha Wood. Tonight, I have Elgin with me.
Greetings.
Elgin is a crypto god.
I don't know about a god. Maybe a saint.
A crypto saint.
Yeah.
And has an interesting life story and is a parent.
Yes.
Has a girlfriend. So we're going to get into some of that tonight.
Yes, we can do all of that.
You were in like a long-term relationship?
I was in a long-term relationship. Yeah.
How long? He's like, I got to take a sip of water before I get into this one.
Like 24 years.
24 years?
Yeah.
First of all, how old are you?
43.
So like most of your life?
Yeah, most of my life.
Wait, when did you guys start? I'm trying to do the math. Mm-hmm. I'm like, did you start dating at 5?
No, well
okay, the math's off there.
Yeah.
But
we met when I was like 18, like my senior year of high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you married?
Yeah. Eventually. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is this your daughter's mother?
Yeah.
So what happened there?
I think, you meet at a young age and, everything is good. And, everything was good for the whole duration of the relationship. It wasn't never a bad relationship. It's just sometimes you grow apart, but I had a daughter at a young age and, I wanted to make sure I was there for my daughter. I didn't want to repeat a cycle, so to speak. So, I would say definitely my daughter was an anchor for that relationship. And I have nothing bad. It was a really good relationship. It was just at a certain point in a relationship, sometimes you grow apart, and especially I think when you get together at a young age,
right.
You kind of are on one path and then the path goes maybe in another direction and the person maybe doesn't go in that same direction or whatever reason. I just think people can grow apart. It doesn't make that person a bad person or me a bad person, just means maybe we're not compatible anymore.
Now, was there like a catalyst or thing that made you say, we just don't need to keep trying anymore, despite our daughter, despite how long it's been?
Nah, it was never really, there was no like defining moment. It was just kind of like I knew I was in a space where I was like, but then you start to think like, well, maybe this is just life. Because you're in a relationship for so long and, again, you're not miserable, but you're not in what people describe love as.
Right.
So you start asking yourself, like, is this going to be my life? Am I settling or am I not? Is it just because it's been the same thing for so long? So you start to ask yourself those questions and you feel different ways at times, but then you build a future together, build a life together.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to, remove yourself from that. And, when I was going to do it, some people were like, oh, you're crazy. Like y'all have what's perceived as, this perfect relationship. You have a house, you have a daughter, you do well and, so on and so forth. But then I had one friend that was like, if that's what you want to do it. He was like, he said, a lot of people will criticize you for doing it because they don't have the courage to do it. A lot of people stay in relationships that maybe they don't want to be in anymore, but don't have the courage to make that leap. So he was like, if you want to, I remember him saying it to me, like when we were I think we were at a bar and I don't drink, but I met him at a bar and I was telling him and he was just like, a lot of people want to do what you're about to do, but don't have the courage. So
sadly, because of outside perceptions and not what's going on in their own heart, they're like, what's everybody going to think? What's everybody going to say? It might look good, but I'm not happy. Right. But like, you can't stay in something unhappy because of how it's going to look or be perceived by other people.
Right. For sure. Yeah. So, I think people stay in relationships for different reasons. It could be financial. It could be a child. It could be just because it's what you've been in. It's comfortable.
Right.
You know, but I think it's important that, you know, you're with the right person. You know, and the person that might be right for you today might not be right for you tomorrow. You know, things can change.
During the relationship, did it ebb and flow in terms of sometimes you felt like, damn, is this it? Or is there more? I should be happier. And other times you were like, okay, this is great. This is it. Or once you got to that place of, damn, is this it? It just stayed that way.
Nah, it's definitely peaks and valleys. You know what I'm saying? So at times I was like, man, I'm really glad that I saw this through and, you know, didn't bail on a situation when I might have felt like I wanted to. But then at times you would also be like, you know, you would see different people that you would see their energy, you know, like see how they are with each other. And you would kind of subconsciously be like, man, I want to feel like that.
Right.
You know, and you didn't, you know, you don't. But then sometimes you do. It's like peaks and valleys. And, you know, there started to be more valleys than peaks. But like I said, I wasn't unhappy. It was just like content.
You knew there could be more.
It's like a dream job versus the job that just pays
gets you by.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever have a conversation about it? Did you ever say, are we living in a way where we're just being content? Were you both sort of holding the same feelings in, if she had the same feelings?
No, she wasn't holding the same feelings. It was definitely me. And I'll say that I did a poor job in communication when I look back, you know, but it's hard. It's a hard truth, you know, when you're thinking that you don't want to be in a relationship that you've been in for so long. Sometimes you dodge the truth. You know, the truth is scary. So you take these emotions and you try to suppress them and put them away and, you know, hope they go away, but then they resurface and, you know. And
she probably felt it even when you didn't say it because people, she didn't feel it? Because I feel like when, like my boyfriend, for example, and if he doesn't say something, like I just am like, You're just, your vibe is off.
Oh, I believe.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and I feel it. So even when he doesn't say something, I'm like, I'll just wait for you to say it. I won't patronize you just yet, but I know something.
No, it was none of that. It was just what I knew. You know, it was like that was my experience for so long. So it just became my normality. You know.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but again, I wasn't unhappy. You know, it wasn't like I came home and was like, oh, fuck. But I just knew that something was missing. When you're like excited to tell somebody things that happened to you or excited to talk about that person, you know, like I kind of lost that piece of the relationship.
Got it.
Yeah. So it kind of just faded.
That scares me a little bit, only because I'm a person that I haven't been in like a lot of long-term relationships. Most of my relationships have been like under 2 years. And I think part of that is because I am a person that craves the new and like the exciting. Sure. And, you know, when I hear people talk about marriage, they do often say, yeah, there's good years, there's bad years. I'm like, years? Bad years? I don't know if I could deal with bad years. And it scares me because I know that there will be those times in a really long relationship, just like anything in life that you do for a long period of time. Like you're not going to enjoy it and be in love with it every single day. But how does one know if it's still the right thing to keep doing after so many years? You know what I mean? Like what's the line? I don't really, that's the question I don't know the answer to, but you know, I do find it sort of fascinating, especially when you've been with somebody that long, because you met when you were like, what, 18?
Yeah.
And a lot of your identities were probably really wrapped up in each other because you met so young. You know, it's different when you meet somebody at 18 versus when you meet somebody at 40. When you've really established by 40, you're like, this is who I am. This is what it is. And another person is the same way. And you can, you know, sort of marry those traits, but you very much have your own identity. Whereas like when you're young, it's like you're building an identity together just by default of being around that person during those formative years. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and when you say peaks and valleys, like good years, bad years, if it was a bad year for me, I can't really remember it. It wasn't nothing bad. You know what I'm saying? It was just, it was cool. It would be like, you know, having scrambled eggs. Like, it's like scrambled eggs are not bad, but you don't be like, man, I really want scrambled eggs. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it was just cool, you know, like, all right, this is it. You know what I'm saying? But I think, you know, getting in a relationship really young certainly has its good things and bad things to it.
What was the good part?
I mean, I think, we were definitely really good friends, and we knew each other like no one else could because we were together so long. There was definitely, she knew what I was thinking. I knew what she was thinking pretty much, but the friendship part of it definitely was like the driving factor, because I come from very rough beginnings. So, for her to know me at my lowest point, to then see me reach my highest,
right?
She definitely contributed to my success, just by being supportive and, believing in some of the wild stuff that I might have wanted to do.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely the friendship part and, and giving me a daughter. So
how did she take it when you finally came to this conclusion that this wasn't it?
She didn't take it very well.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, we're still going through the process of it, so.
Of divorce?
Yeah. Still going through that process. So, some days are better than others. Sometimes we're cool and sometimes we're not.
Right.
And it's a process. It's an interesting one.
Does she know that you have moved into another relationship?
Yeah.
And is she... good with that?
Probably not. Probably not the best news for her.
Right.
And I understand why. So, but I also got to live my life.
Yeah.
And I lived my life a long time for other people, and now I don't want to live it for nobody but me.
So how did you come to be in this relationship you're in now? How long have you been in this relationship?
I've been in this relationship a little over a year.
How'd you guys meet?
Social media. We kind of knew mutual people, and we ended up following each other and had some conversations. And it wasn't the typical conversations, I guess, when people shoot their shot. It was just us kind of talking about different things, and it was just like a platonic conversation through social media. I know that probably doesn't happen often.
She reached out to her, or you reached out to
I mean, if you ask her, she'll think that I reached out to her, but she just responded to something that was in my stories with an emoji, and it was just a conversation. I think I posted something, a James Baldwin post or something, and responded to it with the bullseye emoji, and then it was just a conversation. It was funny because I really didn't even know what she looked like.
So you guys hadn't actually met in person ever?
No. What happened was she had followed me, and when people follow you, you go and look at the page and kind of determine if you want to follow them back or not, if they're worthy of a follow. So she really didn't have pictures of herself. She just had a lot of dope pictures. I was like, oh, she's a photographer. So I was like, okay, cool, dope pictures. I'm going to follow back because I like dope pictures. And, then when we had a conversation through direct message, that's when I was like, let me go look at her page, and I'm trying to figure out who this person looks like, and there were one or two pics of her in there, but I still couldn't really figure out what she looked like. And not because I was thinking about dating her, I was just nosy,
right.
Curiosity. And, she ended up inviting me to an event, and, I met her at the event, and it was just like, hey, how you doing? Boom, boom, boom. It wasn't really, anything like that. We just said hello, exchanged some words, and, she went about her business and I went about mine. And then we had, some follow-up conversations, and then we ended up hanging out, and, then.
So at this point, you're not thinking about it in anything other than a platonic sort of way?
It's kind of funny. So I wasn't really thinking of it that way, but then there was, and I always tell her this, there was something that she said that kind of made me say okay. So I meet her at the event, and she's with, I think it's like a god brother or cousin, or I forget the relationship. Everybody's like a cousin or something like that. But, so I first met her, and she's like, hey, hello, and, give me a hug and whatever. We get to talking for a quick minutes, and then she scatters off into the crowd, and I'm basically in the event, being an event attender. And on the way out, I see her again, and I'm like, hey, all right, nice to see you again. Nice meeting you, and, whatever. And she's like, oh, this is my, she says, this is just my god brother or cousin. I forget what I should know what he is, because he's my friend now too. But she made it really clear, this was not her date for the evening.
Right.
So when she said
just
that,
so you know.
Right. So when she said that to me, I was kind of like, okay. So I was like, all right, noted, and that was like the thing that kind of like sparked my attention. Like, okay, is this person like going to just be my friend, or, could this be something else?
Could this be love?
Could it be? Right.
So then how did it move from that to the next stage?
There was another event that she invited me to, and I went to the event, but the shit had a line like wrapped around the door. I think it was like a hype beast event or whatever. And it's like, all right, I'm not doing that. And so I hit her like, this line is crazy. And she was like, oh, I'm not even at that event. I had to go to a different one. So I was like, all right. And she was like, let's link up later. And, so we hung out again, and, we hung out that night, and same thing, was kind of just like kicking in good conversation and stuff. And, probably wasn't until a couple more times seeing her that things kind of developed into something else.
So who made that move though? Like,
I mean, if you ask her, she's going to say I did. If you ask me, I'm going to say she did, but I think like, it's like anything else, like a first kiss is, you kind of just, it finds its way to happening. And it did. And, then it went from there.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Is it strange being in a new relationship after having been with the same person for so long? And we're talking like times have just changed since then. Like, you know what I mean? Not just the time you guys were together, but just technology and dating and just times have definitely changed. And is it, because I imagine during that time, so if you met her when you were 18, you haven't just been with many people generally or in relationships. You weren't in too many relationships before you were 18. Not too many
relationships, no.
Right. So is it just sort of strange?
It doesn't feel strange.
No?
I don't know. I kind of think I'm good at dating.
He's like, I never got the chance to do it a whole lot, but I'm good at it.
But I had a lot of female friends, and, I'm always been active, I'm outgoing and, extroverted by nature. So, it didn't really feel strange at all. Like, I'm good at talking to people. I'm comfortable in just being myself. So, and the female friends that I had would talk to me about their dating experiences, and I would kind of be like, damn, people is really out here like that. Like, and made me feel really comfortable. Like, from what they were telling me they were running into, I was like, oh, I must be like a catch. I'm
none of that.
Yeah, I'm normal. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think I'm kind of good at it. I wasn't intimidated by it. It was rather easy.
Do you ever feel like because you were with the same person for so long, you sort of have old habits that are just natural? Do you know what I'm saying? Like just earlier today,
yes,
Chris brought me a cup of tea and I said, thanks, Mom. Like, which was so weird that I called him Mom.
Right.
But just, I'm used to my mother bringing me tea. And so just subconsciously, tea meant Mom. So I was like, thanks, Mom. Like, without even thinking about it.
I think definitely I've changed some of my habits in a new relationship because there would be things that I would do or say or act or how we perceive each other, and she'd be like, oh, I don't like this because X, Y, and Z. And my first reaction, initially in the beginning of our relationship was to contest everything she was saying because I'm used to always being right.
Right.
And that, that didn't last long. Mm-hmm. So I kind of then started saying, okay, now when she tells me something like, like one thing she told me, like when we're having some banter back and forth, it'll be like, she's like, you just always got to keep going. You'll just keep like harping and going and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, maybe she's right. Do I do that? You know what I'm saying? And I start to then analyze myself and so I guess try to improve upon the things that might make her feel away, or I might come off as a jerk, because I don't want to. And, but I've been this way for so long.
Exactly.
But none of us are beyond self-improvement.
Have you ever done therapy?
Nah, I want to do therapy, though. I want to do it for a bunch of different reasons, like my upbringing and things that I've been through in life. Like, I feel like I need it.
So you said that when you first met your ex-wife, she kind of saw you you said the worst place in life to now accomplishing sort of everything you wanted to. Like, what was your upbringing like, or what was that place?
So my mom, she got shot when I was 1. And
oh my gosh.
My mom died when I was 1. I don't, the police report was she shot herself, but, we don't know if that's necessarily the case or not. And my dad, I was raised by my dad, but my dad, when I was like 13, he fell victim to drug addiction.
Wow.
Yeah. So my dad went to jail when I was 16, and I was on my own since 16. So, I was basically just out in the streets running around. I was homeless in my senior year in high school. I lived in a shelter. Nobody knew. So I just been through a lot. I've been in trouble with the law when I was young. Fortunately, I have a clean record because I was really wild at a young age. So by the time I became an adult, I kind of been through the system enough where I didn't continue that trend. So just been through a lot, a lot of different things. And, especially when you deal with a parent with addiction, and I always say, like, one of the things I regret the most is because if you grew up, I'm 43, if you grew up during the crack era, chances are you sold some crack, right? You might have sold it just once, or you might have sold a whole lot of it, right? I certainly didn't sell a whole lot of it. I might have sold enough to buy sneakers and some clothes because I wanted to look cute for the girls. But, selling some to my dad is probably one of the most traumatic things that I remember. Like, when I think of therapy, that's definitely something that I still think about.
Wow. Yeah. Is your dad locked up still?
No, my dad is out. He got dementia. We don't really have a relationship. Like, when he went away, he came home and, I would see him here and there, but I don't have any resentment towards him. The relationship is kind of just not there.
Right.
So, and then when he's not really functioning at full capacity either. So, that's one thing my girlfriend is like, you got to go see your dad. Like, you got to, even if it's just go and see him, because when he's gone, you're going to regret it. And she's probably right, but it's just, I have to want to do it. And I'm not sure that I want to, so I don't know, maybe I will.
Just why don't you want to?
When I went to see him before, not when I went to see him in the hospital, but when he came home from jail and, we would kick it and stuff, my dad was like, before drugs, my dad was like a genius. Like, take an IQ test and he's a genius, and then being around him and seeing the damage that the drugs did kind of like really bothered me. Like, to see that he could not function at, normal capacity, like a regular person, not even a genius, just a regular person, right? To see him struggle with problem solving and stuff. And maybe that was the dementia, but kind of really made me feel away. And then as I became to find myself and be successful, I remember one time, like, he ridiculed my success. So, like, when I first bought my first house, he was like, how'd you buy a house? Like, you couldn't have bought a house on your own. Somebody gave you that money, and like, got into an argument. I was like, I'm not like you. Like, you know what I'm saying? I went out and did something with my life. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And that was like the last time I saw him because I was like, fuck this dude. Like, even though I don't hold anything against him at that moment, I was insulted that, he thought that I couldn't be somebody. Right. Yeah.
Do you think that your relationship with him has affected the way you parent?
Yeah, but in a positive way.
Right.
Because like, when I came in and you were like, do you want something to drink, right? And I was like, I don't drink. Like, I don't do anything because of my dad. Like, I would look at my dad and be like, yo, I don't want to be like him. It made me just want to stay away from everything. And when I was having my daughter, even though I was young, I was like, all right, I got to give my daughter everything that my father didn't give me. And my thing that I always would tell people when they were having kids, if they were having daughters especially, I would be like, look, bro, like, you got to be the man that you would want your daughter to date. You know what I'm saying? Like, that needs to be the standard, and forget the relationship with the mom. If you're not together, that's one thing. But if your daughter was grown and came home with you, would you feel good? That's just kind of like what I instilled in myself. So that's because of my dad. If my dad was normal, maybe I wouldn't feel so strong, about the role that I had in my daughter's life.
Right.
And having a family with my daughter, as opposed to just being a baby father or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that not knowing your mom had an effect on how you dated women?
No, because it just seemed regular. Like, because it's not like I had a mom and she was taken away.
Right.
Like, I literally have no memory of my mom, like none, just one picture that I seen. Right. And, I don't think it did. It might have, but I think, like, I always say, like, all the women I dated or, had situations with, like, I don't think any of them dislike me.
Right.
Like, all of them like me because I always treated women with respect. You know, I might have been a knucklehead and done some dumb shit at a young age, you know, but for the most part, I'm just respectful, you know, so I think they all like me at least. None of them have blocked me like on Facebook or anything. So they all come on my page and wish me happy birthday. So I think I did all right. You know.
So what's your relationship with your daughter like?
It's good.
Is she a daddy's girl?
She's definitely a daddy's girl. The relationship was a little, it's funny. So the relationship was, you know, we were always like super tight. And, you know, as she got older, you know, daughters, kids, in general, teenagers, like they don't want to really be around any parents. You know, they want to go out and figure their own shit out. Even though I was kind of like, quote unquote, the cool dad. Like when I would go to school, like all her friends was like, oh, you know, they would text her like, can you ask your dad where to get these sneakers? Or, you know, she would get annoyed. She'd be like, Dad, like, you know, this guy's texting me. He's asking me about you. It's very annoying. You know what I'm saying? So
don't text me asking me about my dad.
Right. So, but then, you know, like up until recently, like we were kind of like disconnected because, you know, my wife, she moved out, you know, and my daughter stayed with me, but there was like a disconnect between us and, you know, I couldn't really figure it out. And about a month ago, like I sat down and we talked about me. You know, and she didn't know I was dating somebody, you know, and I was like, all right, you know, my wife was like, you need to tell your daughter you're dating someone. My girlfriend's like, you know, you should probably tell your daughter you're dating someone. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to tell her when I'm ready, you know, because I was just dodging the awkward conversation. Mm-hmm. So I go to sit her down and I'm like, hey, you know, we got to talk. And she's like, what's up? And we're in my office at home. And I'm like, you know, I was dating somebody, you know, me and your mom. But she's like, Dad, like, I know already. And she's like, you know, you're dating such and such. And she says the person's name. And I'm like, how do you know this? She's like, I'm smart, Dad. Like, I'm not stupid.
Couple clicks on social media. You can figure stuff out.
She's like, she started telling me everything about her. She was like, oh, she does what I want to do. Like, you know, in terms of work. She's like, oh, she got nice skin, Dad, you know, whatever. She's like, you know, we could be cool. You know, maybe we could be friends, whatever. So ever since I told her that, like, I guess maybe she was carrying, like, she felt a way that she knew.
Right, and she didn't hear it from you.
Right.
But
then ever since that moment, like our communication has like really, really improved. So it's kind of interesting, you know, and definitely was a right decision to do it. But I was just putting it off for whatever reason.
Did you think that she would react horribly to it?
I didn't really know, you know, like I don't know what, I wasn't really afraid of it. It was just like kind of like avoiding it. Like for no real reason in particular. It was kind of just like, I'll deal with it later.
There's always a reason.
I don't know what it was though. It really was no reason at all in my mind.
How did she react to the divorce?
I mean, kids are resilient. She was just like, hey, that's your thing. Like, you know, like if that's what y'all going to do, cool. Like, you know, she didn't really, I'm sure she felt the way.
Right.
But she didn't express it. You know, so she's been solid, you know. I'm sure she feels a way, but, you know, she said to me, even like, she was like, that when I was sitting there telling I'm dating this person, she was like, look, if that's the person that makes you happy, you know, I want you to be happy, you're my dad. And, you know, if mommy feels a way, mommy has to get over it.
Right.
You know, so I was like, whoa, like, okay, cool.
Spitting knowledge.
Yeah. Team
Them kids will get you sometimes.
Team daddy, you know. So, yeah, it's cool.
So what advice do you give your daughter about men?
Man, it's weird. Like I was talking about it the other day with her, and I'm like, you know, the same thing. I was like, well, why ain't you, like I never even met nobody that you dated. You know, she's like,
you said this to her?
Yeah.
You got some nerve though.
Yeah, I know. But
I'm just saying.
She was like, Dad, you want me to date knuckleheads? She was like, it's nothing but knuckleheads up here. That's why I want to move. You know, this, that, and other. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I was like, you know, I said, just feel like you could talk to me about it if you want. You know, and if she does, you know, I guess it's kind of weird talking to your dad, probably. She might talk to her mom about it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I try to give her as much advice and, you know, lead by example and just, you know, tell her respect herself. But I also know, like, an 18-year-old girl is you, male or female, like, you're supposed to make mistakes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's sometimes the only way to learn. You know, like, if you think you're just going to hop and skip through life and, you know, not fuck with the wrong person or, you know, make the wrong decision or maybe misrepresent yourself in a way that you wish you didn't, like, it's just not reality. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? This is the game of life is about mistakes. Just, people say learn from your mistakes. I say, yeah, just don't let your mistakes be the only thing you learn from.
So you had a pretty hard life, your mom passing away, and then your dad going to prison.
Yeah.
What was the pivot that you made that switched the trajectory? Because it could have easily gone the other way.
It was headed
But
that
what
way.
was like the catalyst or the thing that changed it?
All right. So I was the kid in the neighborhood that, like, your parents were like, yo, if I catch you hanging with him, I'm gonna bust your ass. You know what I'm saying? Because I was always into some shit. So I had like a real good friend. His name was Petey. And in the neighborhood, everybody called him White Boy Petey. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think if you grew up in New York, in the hood, there was always one white kid in the neighborhood. And whatever his name was, it was White Boy plus his name. So, he was White Boy Petey.
Right.
And I would hang with him, even though his mom, Linda, would be like, you better not hang with him. He's always into some shit. So when my dad went to jail and I was basically like staying at this person's house one night.
At White Boy Petey's?
His house.
Okay.
Or no, not his house. I would stay at a different person's house one night. I would sleep maybe in a laundry room at a building one night or on the roof if it's summer, And she found out about it and she was like, look, like, I know you out here and you're doing dumb shit and, you're going down a path of destruction and I know you don't have nowhere to live. So if you want to come live with us, you can. Mm-hmm. So I was embarrassed to say, like, I didn't have anywhere to stay. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm good. I got somewhere to live. I'm not homeless. But she was like, I know what's going on, but I'm just letting you know. So she goes away, and then late in the day, I see Petey, and he's like, bro, like, why don't you just come live with me? Like, you hang with me every day. We do everything together. Like, it's better than doing what you're doing. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to go live with you. It makes sense, right? So I go and live with her, and initially, like, my
and at this point, how old are you?
16. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 16. My initial thought process was, well, I'm going to live there and I'm going to still run the streets and, I'm going to take advantage of the situation. And that's where my mind was at. And I did that for a while, but then I started seeing like this woman really cared for me. Mm-hmm. Like she really just cared. And that was like a foreign feeling, like somebody just genuinely caring about me.
Right.
And it made me start to care about myself. And, I didn't want to, before I didn't really care. Like if I got arrested, if anything happened, I didn't really care. Like it was whatever. But then I got to the point where I didn't want to disappoint this person. Right. So I started to slowly change my direction. I went back to school because I had stopped going to school because I was just out in the street. Went back to school, started doing better in school, and, slowly started to not want to partake in the things I was partaking in. Mm-hmm. That was one defining, that was one key pivot. But there was another thing that happened, and I had a really good knack for like hustling and, finding a way to get $1 illegally. Like I was really good at it. And, but no matter how much money I made, I always seemed to lose it. So, I would lose.
Like actually just lose the money or just spend it all?
No, like someone would rob the house or, I would buy, like one time I bought a car in cash and it ended up being a stolen car. So I lost like $13,000 in cash.
Wow.
Then one time I had a bag of money. I left it in a car by mistake and lost it. So it seemed like I would take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Right. And I just remember one day saying to myself, like, all right, like I feel like, and this is going to sound silly maybe to the people listening, but I said, I think my mom is like in heaven, and every time she sees me do this shit, like she just keeps like fucking up the bag for me, right. to teach me a lesson.
I believe that.
Yeah, I believe
that.
It was something that I felt inside of me.
I believe that.
And I was like, okay,
you don't know who's watching you.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try this straight and narrow shit, and I did. Like I was like, all right, I'm not gonna do no more scams. I'm not gonna do whatever I was doing at the time. Mm-hmm. And as I did that, the trajectory of my life changed. I started to have more quote unquote luck, but it probably wasn't luck. Mm-hmm. It was karma or, positive energy, or my mom saying, all right, let me sprinkle some little special dust down on you so you do better, but I remember like just thinking that at that time, like, okay, like I got to change because just the way I'm going, it ain't working.
I 100% believe that it was your mother probably being like, no, that's not the direction you're going. I'm going to make it really hard for you if that's the direction you think you're going.
Shout to my mom.
So whatever happened to White Pete's mom?
Oh, so we were, when I was in my senior year of high school, she was like, yo, we going to Puerto Rico. Because, you know, she had a Puerto Rican husband. And she's like, you know, Yak, you could come to Puerto Rico if you want to go. And I was like, bro, I ain't leaving New York. Like, you're bugging. Like, you know, so now she left New York. And now I'm homeless again, like right back where I started. But I'm a senior in high school, and it was the summer, and I ended up finding a shelter in the Bronx. And I ended up staying in a shelter. And, you know, I was still going to high school, though. Like, I would just commute from the Bronx to Yonkers and go to school and not let anybody know that I was homeless, because I was, like, the freshest homeless dude ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would keep my clothes somewhere else and, you know, go take a shower there, get dressed, and, you know, go to school. And she went to Puerto Rico. He stayed for a little bit with me in the shelter. He ended up couldn't take it and left. And then she ended up coming back years later. You know, and we still talk, but always credit her. Like, she's definitely the person that saved my life.
Wow.
Yeah, if it wasn't for her, I'd be out of here.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody now that's maybe in that situation?
You know, you got to find the belief in yourself. You know, like, understand that the problems you face today don't have to be there forever. You know, like, you could change your circumstances, your scenery. You know, you just can't expect to do it all at once. It's like a diet. You know, like, if you're 40, 50 pounds overweight, if you go to the gym today, like, you go on a scale tomorrow, you're still the same weight.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? So it's a slow process, but you have to, you know, work towards your goals and figure out where you want to be. You know, even if it's just a short-term goal, like, you might say, I just want a studio apartment. You know, like, okay, well, how much money do you need for it?
Right.
You know, how hard you got to work to get it, you know, but everything is just steps, you know, because where I'm at now versus where I was at then, it's like I'm a totally different person. And surround yourself with people that you want to be like. You know, don't surround yourself with people that you don't want to be like. You know, like, when I was growing up, I was surrounded by people doing bad things, and I did bad things, you know, and then as I got older, I started to see people that were successful, and I was like, let me listen to them. You know, not listen to them in terms of them giving me direction, but let me just understand how they move. Like, what is their mindset like? You know, like, it took me years to even, like, travel. You know, like, for my mind, I was like, I'm good in the hood. Like, I don't ever want to leave the hood. Like, what I'm going to leave the hood for? I got everything here, you know? And then as I started to see people that were successful when they traveled, I was just like, let me try this traveling shit. You know?
Right.
I was like, oh my God, like, I like this. You know?
I like this other place.
Yeah, you know, so it was like, I was like so closed-minded to everything because it was just, I knew a 4-block radius. You know, that was my existence.
It's like mental walls that are created, you know?
Well, it's like, it's years of conditioning. Though.
Right.
It's like a dude that's been locked up for 20 years. When he comes back home, he doesn't know how to adjust to society.
Right.
You know, excuse me, there's no, you know, way of just erasing 20 years of programming, you know? And the same thing, like, you grow up in the hood, you kind of, like, I really thought, like, I was like, okay, you know, jail is probably part of my future. You
Wow.
know, death.
How old were you when you thought that?
14, 15, you know, I kind of was like, because I was a younger kid, but I ran with older kids. Mm-hmm. Like, I was 13 running around with like 16-year-olds, and you might say, well, it's only 3-year difference, but when you're 13 and someone's 16, it's like a life of experience. Right. You know what I'm saying? But it's just kind of look at jail like, okay, jail is, you know, part of life, you know, and hopefully death isn't, but, you know, drugs are, getting shot is, you know, it's just kind of normal. Like, okay. You know, like, even like I said with my dad, like, my house was a drug house, you know, like, literally a drug house where people came to get high. And I lived in that, you know, but it was normal. It wasn't like, I didn't come home and be like, oh my God, I live in a crack house. You know, I was just like,
this is life.
Yeah, this is all you know.
Right.
You know, it's just normal. So you get caught up in that cycle. When I started working in a restaurant, that's when I really started getting exposed to different types of people, you know, because I went and worked in this Italian restaurant as a busboy. It was like, not one of my first jobs, but like my first good job because I made actually good money. Mm-hmm. And it was, you know, all white restaurant. It was Italian restaurant. It was all white people. And, you know, kind of watching them, I was like, it's different, you know, like, and then meeting the customers. And that's kind of like where I got comfortable with being outgoing because you kind of had to be,
right.
You know, talk to the customers and, you know, listening to them talk and then kind of having a different perspective on things, you know, and it kind of just opened my eyes to a different way of thinking. And if I probably didn't work at that restaurant, I definitely would close my.
But uncomfortable where you were.
Yeah, exactly. Because I remember like going in the first day, like I got the job. I was hired. They hired me without meeting me. Like I was just supposed to show up to work because I knew someone who worked there. My friend was a boxer, and one of his sparring partners worked there as a waiter. And I remember like taking the bus to that part of town, and I'm like,
where was it?
It was in Hartsdale, New York, Westchester County, and I was like, yo, this is not really where I'm comfortable at. And I remember like I walked up to the restaurant and I looked in and saw all the people in there, and I left. Like I went back to the bus stop. I wasn't going to go in because I felt like scared. And I was at the bus stop and I was just like, man, like I really need this job. Like, and I don't want to embarrass my friend that got me the job and not show up. So I forced myself to go in, you know, and
wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Like I almost didn't go in. And the way I got into my current career is through that restaurant, you know, because one of the regular customers I work in automotive industry. So I work for Mercedes now, and he worked in the dealership, and he was just like, you know, you should come try work at the dealership. You'll be really good at it, you know? And I was like, all right, you know, whatever. And then like a year later, I was like, you know, I kind of want to try that thing you told me about. And he brought me in and got me a job there. So like, funny, like how all those things happen, you know,
right.
and set you up for different things later on in life.
And at any point, if you would have just said no to one of those things, like stuff could have gone completely different.
Like success is like such like a thin line, you know, like you can just being in the right place at the right time or the right attitude, like, you know, you could easily miss out on a golden opportunity, you know, if you're not prepared for it.
So what's next for you? In the relationship, in life, in work,
you know,
etc.
The relationship is just one day at a time, you know, and enjoying it as it is, you know, and seeing where it goes. You know, work-wise, it's this other stuff that I work on besides my everyday I use my 9 to 5 to basically fund my dreams, you know, so I have the cryptocurrency podcast that I do, so that's one thing. I have, like I mentioned to you, I have a script for a television show that hopefully I'm going to finalize a deal on with some people I can't
Congrats.
talk about, but yeah. Also have a social media and digital marketing company that I started with my girlfriend. It's called...
I like couples that work together.
Yeah, it's dope. It's called Socially Driven.
Okay.
So we started that, and we've been working on that and securing accounts and stuff, so that's another side venture. I have my real estate plays that I do. So I just keep busy. Like I like to be busy.
Yeah.
You know, like I like to just try different shit. You know, like I see people do stuff. I dabbled in artist management for a while. I did that. Was pretty good at it. Didn't get to the finish line like I thought I would, but it was fun. So I'm always looking for creative outlets.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what keeps me going. I'm good at my 9 to 5, even though it's more than a 9 to 5, but I really love anything that allows me to be creative. That's dope. Yeah. So where can people reach you? Twitter, Instagram, it's elgin.com, ELGINDOTCOM. You can, if you're interested in making money, which everyone is, you know, we have the podcast, so called Cryptology Pod. It's about cryptocurrency. For those that don't know, you know, it's Bitcoin and things of that nature. What's the shortened version of cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency itself, the coins operate like a stock. Mm-hmm. So when you buy a coin, you're buying basically a percentage of either a company or a platform or a system, you know, that you believe in. But it operates that way. It fluctuates. The value of it goes up and down a lot. They all operate on what's called a blockchain technology. So traditionally, people store data on a server, whether it's the cloud or a central server. Right. Blockchain is a bunch of small servers in the form of people's computers operating together to verify data. So there's nothing stored in one central location. It's all on a ledger. It's all digital ledger, but which is constantly checked and verified by other people's computers who are working on the blockchain. But I would tell people, you know, the simple thing is like Google blockchain, Google Bitcoin, Google Ethereum. Understand those three things, you know, and it's definitely the next, you know, form of opportunity to make money. We're like the only, I guess, cryptocurrency podcast that speaks in slang. That we target, our demographic is not the normal demographic, where every other cryptocurrency podcast is kind of boring and they talk in like a very binary, technical way. We're on there talking shit. We have a lot of fun and crack a lot of jokes, but we also give you jewels in between. And, the response has been really good. We actually have people that send us money like, hey, thank you so much, man. I made money messing with y'all.
That's dope.
Yeah, so they send us money.
If you guys out there found love listening to DRL, feel free to send some money.
Yeah, send some money. So it's been really good. Like I did it just because I wanted to help people, because I feel like, minorities or people who don't come from money always get looked over.
Right.
And we always miss out on shit because no one schools us. So I was like, you know what? This could be a way just to make people stop maybe going on World Star so much or on Vlad TV and go and try and educate yourself a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And sharing your journing.
Thank you.
And I hope things go okay with the divorce.
Yeah. I think
it's never easy to separate, but
it'll be fine, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm wishing you happiness and love.
I'm looking for it.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening tonight. And please reach out to me and let me know what you think of tonight's show. You can reach me at Tanisha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.